Hello, hello. How is YouTube today? How are things going with you? I hope things are going the way you want them to. As a New Year's resolution, I wanted to start kind of mixing up my content here, talking on some different topics, not just makeup, not just beauty. Sometimes talking about artwork, sometimes talking about just creative inspirations in general, and sometimes talking about things that motivate me, things that I have learned along the way, things that I have that have kind of continued to help me to survive. And it's not just about survival. I think it's about thriving, thrival, I guess you could say. It's not just about I'm going to survive, but I'm going to thrive, okay? And if you're listening to this right now, you have survived. You've survived something. You've survived life up until this point. But I've always wanted more than just to survive. I've always known that I was a survivor of many things. Before I get started, don't forget to hit thumbs up and don't forget to share and don't forget to hit the notification bell. And I always put my links below. So I've always considered myself a survivor of many things, but I always wanted more than that. And it doesn't mean money, okay? Thriving means it's more than you're living beyond the struggle, okay? We can stay in that struggle, like a struggle mindset, struggle in how we cope with things. It's more than just taking 2 pieces of bread and putting a slice of cheese on it and a little ketchup and calling it pizza, okay? Yes, that's how I grew up, okay? But it's more than the material things, like what you're eating and how you're living and how you're entertaining, or where your home is, or who your friends are, or who your family is, or whatever. But it's more than that. And moving past being in struggling and surviving and moving on to something better, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit in general about surviving certain things without going into too much personal detail and naming names. But I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm just going to talk about I'm going to say a quote that I think is really valuable, okay? So, that trauma creates change that you don't choose, right? If you survive a trauma, you have now experienced and you're going through some personal changes that you didn't choose, right? And healing is about change that you do choose. So you can choose to heal or be on the path to healing, because I don't believe anyone completely heals from things. Just like they say now, they used to say mourning was something you got over, mourning at death was something you got over. But now they're saying, mourning is just part of your person, because once somebody passes, you're different and you carry them with you, and not only do you carry their memory, but you're carrying the loss. You're carrying that loss. So even if you aren't in bed crying all day anymore, you're still carrying that loss with you, right? So trauma creates change you don't choose. Let's think about it. So something traumatic happens to me, or something bad happens that you can't control. That's a trauma. It might not be something that sends you to the ER, and it might not be something that's a mental trauma. It might not be some form of abuse. It could be something that happens unexpectedly, but it comes at such a shock that it feels like a trauma, right? So, and that stuff, obviously, that's something you didn't choose. It's change you didn't choose. But healing, we can make a choice to move forward to heal, okay? So healing is about change you do choose. So making positive changes helps you to heal, helps you to get out of that, intense mindset. So I just think that that's a really good quote. And when you look at, how it can be applied, it can cover a lot of bases. Okay, it can cover a lot of things. So, during the pandemic, during lockdown, I had already been working from home for quite a few years. And I had already slowed down my lifestyle quite a bit. I had spent many years pushing, working full time, working a lot of hours, keeping myself physically and mentally busy, overly busy sometimes, to the point of, working 6 days a week and still going in on the 7th to make sure the paperwork got done, in a salon situation. So a lot, and even though I thought I had remembered everything, I thought I had known and experienced and had, experienced moving on from certain traumas or moving on from certain things in my life, I somehow, over the years, had completely blocked out a memory, a very intense memory that somehow, with the time of the pandemic, with the quietness and the lack of, I think, the lack of not being able to do anything, right? The stillness of not having a tight schedule, not having a busy schedule. Because even when I wasn't working out in the world, I was still working freelance. And suddenly I wasn't working, those of us in the beauty business, it's a personal business. It took a while for things to open up, and so we weren't working. So it took that time, as well as I also had some, physical things that were going on that I really believe kind of just emotionally cracked me open. And I haven't heard that many people talk about these things, but anyway, but sometimes, you remember things when you're ready to remember things, sometimes our body puts something in a pocket somewhere and you don't realize it. So I had something triggered me. We were going on a certain little trip, and I had a memory of going there before, and a certain a set of circumstances that were very traumatic. And like I said, I'm not going to go into details, but it completely threw me off because I thought I had dealt with everything. I thought I had remembered everything. I thought that I dealt with everything in terms of my past and growing up and childhood and all that kind of thing. So I had to start from square one again. I thought I had worked on a lot of things about being child abuse or being abused as a child, or different things, or being a survivor of a lot of dysfunction in the home. But I had to do some research all over again to kind of just put me in that mode of what I needed to work on to be able to move forward. Because if not, I was going to stay stuck in that time of remembering and being traumatized from the memories and kind of frozen. You're kind of like shell shock and you're frozen and you can't move forward. So I found some good tips that I'm going to share. It's how to respond when a survivor breaks their silence. First thing is to believe them. That's huge. Don't question, well, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't they do that? Or what did this? And what did this? Just say, I believe you. That's the first thing. Because that says, I trust your judgment. I trust you're telling the truth. I trust that, you experienced it, right? And then number 2 is listen without interrupting. Just listen and let that person tell their story. And then number 3 is validate and reassure them. Validating is huge. And I'm very grateful that when I came to my husband with this, he validated. He's like, I believe you. I understand what happened. I think it's awful what happened. But you're safe. You're safe with me. You're safe now. That was a long time ago, and you're safe. So he validated what I was saying, and that I'm now safe. Which, even if I can look around, and it's many, many years later, being able to know and feel safe, even though you can look around and say, yeah, I know I'm safe. I'm safe from this type of trauma happening to me now. I'm safe, and I'm more confident, and I learn more and whatever, but still just hearing it, okay? Then the 4th thing is help them explore and research next steps they can take, right? Encourage them to do research, whether it's to look into therapy, whether it's to look into some personal development. And that's what this was. I had been on a personal development journey for about 11 years. After I closed my salon, I thought, well, we moved to a different city, and I thought, well, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to handle my life, business as usual. I'm going to take a couple months off, and Patrick's got a new job right away, and he'll get a job up where we're moving, and everything's going to be fine. And it didn't work out that way. And a lot of things happened. And I signed up, even though I didn't even know if we could afford it at that point, but I said, something told me I have to sign up. It was a course that was being offered, and I think I saw it posted on LinkedIn of all places, saying it was a course on how to deal with difficult people mainly in the workplace, and pertaining to the workplace, but it was in general how to deal with difficult people. And that was my first course, and that wasn't beauty related or work related or some sort of professional thing. But in a way it was, because people were starting to pay more attention to these kinds of things in the workplace or in their personal lives around 2012. That's when you start to have Alanya Fix My Life, and you start to have Oprah's masterclass, and you start to have more and more and more personal enrichment. That's when you start to have those Eckhart Tolle books were being written, and more people were looking inward, and people were already doing yoga at that point, but there was more yoga, and there was more self-development, right? So from then I took a course on, and these are just like 1-day seminars. Sometimes it might be 2 or 3 hour class. Sometimes it could be all day. That one about the difficult people, that was an all-day thing. I took a course on procrastination, because I'd always been a procrastinator in my personal life. Of course, when you're doing hair, you can't procrastinate. The customer's right there. You have to get them. You have to perform the service and get them out. The same thing with makeup. You perform the service, and then, if you say it's a bride, you perform the service, and they go off and they get married. But in my personal life, I was the queen of procrastination. I would put off things, and I would kind of mentally take things and put it on a shelf and not deal with them. And I think it's part of the reason why I was married for quite a long time with my first husband, and we didn't deal with the issues, and we were married a lot longer than way past the expiration date, I think, of the relationship, because I kind of procrastinated. It'll get better. I made excuses. It'll get and things escalated. So anyway, so that's some things that since then I started to, at least, if not once a year, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year, I would either take a course, whether it was an online course or an in-person course, on enriching myself. And it was very helpful because I kept getting myself in some extremely stressful situations with difficult people, whether they were family members, whether they were employers, whether they were possible employers, whether they were customers, whether they were not all the time, but when it happened in such a way that I needed to have the confidence and I needed to be able to take the deep breaths and acknowledge how this person was making me feel, but I have control over my emotions and how they're going to make me feel. Even if they're being the bad person that's making me feel bad in that moment in some way, I know that I'm strong in my convictions and that I'm going to I'm going to deal with this situation and get to the other side, this bad situation, get to the other side of it. Okay. So, one of the things that I found in my research was 5 steps to ground yourself when you're being triggered. Okay. So those are grounding oneself and being triggered. I mean, triggered is one of those words that's just like, it's almost to the point of overuse. But here's an example. I used to have these problems that I wasn't dealing with manifested itself in panic attacks. And there were many things that I wasn't dealing with when I was having the panic attacks. And then, of course, like I said, over time, I dealt with them and whatever. But like I said, I was still prone to certain things because there was still stuff that had come up yet. But grounding myself was more like, I would call it like how to help de-stress yourself while you're being stressed. Okay. To me, that's a better term because grounding and triggered and all this, it's kind of like there's such buzzwords that it can kind of turn people off, right? So here's just some things. So sometimes I would be in the line in the grocery store and I would be so frustrated and so annoyed at so many things. I have sensory overload. Maybe it's an annoying song being played on the radio inside the grocery store. Maybe it's a child that's screaming. Maybe it's somebody they have a perfume that I don't like, or they haven't showered and they smell bad, or an annoying voice of somebody who's talking to somebody ahead in line. I would get those kinds of triggers, and it would make me feel so panicked and so stressed and all these things at once. And sometimes everything is happening like that when you're in a store or like at Walmart or somewhere. And I would have to mentally, and I just want to scream. I'd feel like, oh my God, I just almost want to have like a meltdown. But you can't because you're standing in line, someone's waiting for you, you've got your groceries, it's raining, know that you have to be the responsible adult in those moments. You can't freak out. You can't just, I mean, yes, there are times where sometimes people just like leave everything and go running crying to the bathroom. But the reality is you've been in line. I was in line and I needed to stay in line and I needed to hold it together just a few more minutes till the noisy family leaves or till you get past these other people that are making you crazy or whatever it is. Even if it's the prices of the groceries, So I would need to de-stress myself. And how would I do that? Well, a lot of times I would just even say mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter in my head, or even just mind over matter, mind over matter. And sometimes I would just say that, and kind of chant to myself. But these are some better ways, because sometimes I just do some deep breaths. But this is a really good, better, I would say an even better list of things I had never even thought about, is name 5 things you can see. So let's say if there's a lot of noise and it's driving you crazy, concentrate on things you can see instead, because that's a different sense, right? So it kind of can help you tune out that thing that you can't, you wish you could tune out, but you can't. But if you're doing this thing, like all of a sudden concentrating on things you can see, like, oh, there's a candy bar over there. Oh, there's a soda machine over there. Or, oh, there's a magazine with a celebrity on it. Gee, I wonder what they're up to these days. Or here's a, National Enquirer, or whatever your concentration on. Concentrate on things you can see. If the hearing is overwhelmed, the sounds are overwhelmed. And think of and then of course that kind of occupies your mind. It's almost like trying to count sheep when you're trying to sleep. It occupies your mind and you're thinking about those things, and suddenly those things, the other things in that store that were stressing you out, don't stress you out as much. Okay. So 4 things you can feel. So even if it's like, oh, I'm feeling a wet umbrella it's in the grocery cart because it's raining outside. Or I reach in my purse and I'm feeling the leather of my wallet, or something I can feel. I'm feeling the fabric on my coat, or even if it's like feeling the texture of something that's in the grocery cart. Once again, those are things that kind of take your mind away from what you've heard, or what you were going on, or what's going on in your head. Then, okay, if you're really stressed, you would name 3 things you can hear. But obviously, if it was hearing things that were getting my nerves, then but then it would be like, name 2 things you can smell, And so let's say if you have a bag of apples right there in your grocery cart, you can still take a deep breath of those apples, or the go somewhere where there is some, sometimes they've got a station where they're selling soaps or something, where they've got some organic soaps where they all have some different scents. But whatever it is, sometimes those smells, the good smells, smells that you like, can help calm you down and help you de-stress. Okay, so 6 things, and here's another list. 6 things that you can tell a survivor today. I think you're doing amazing. And that would be fantastic to hear. Because when you're dealing with something, when you're dealing with, you feel like you're the only person in the world that's been through it, and you feel like you're doing so much, and you need that emotional support of someone saying, you're doing amazing. You're doing amazing. And then you say, I'm proud of you. And another one is, I'm here for you. And compliment them and say that they are strong. And also say, I'm glad I know you. And then it says, I love you no matter what. Those are all incredible things to say to somebody who is a survivor, and or in my case, realizes they were a survivor of something that they didn't even know that they had gone through until years and years later. And then here's something else. 5 reminders for trauma. You are not alone, okay? You are enough. You are not to blame for the trauma. Your feelings about the trauma are valid, and that yes, you can heal. Now, the healing might not be on your timeline. When I learned that, I was like, oh my God. The healing might not happen overnight. It might not be in a week or a month. It may be a part of you that's like a scar. The worst of the wound is gone, but the scar is there, right? And so, yes, you have healed, but you still have the scar. And you know that it's there. And healing does not erase it, right? That's why the scar is there. it doesn't erase that it happened. It means that the intense immediate pain, that what you're feeling about that incident right now won't be as bad. It doesn't, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but it won't be as bad as in the moment what you're first experiencing, if you're experiencing it new, or in my case, you're experiencing it as way long after the fact, when you can't confront the person involved, you can't talk to the other people that were involved in the situation. That was a long, long time ago, and the world is a totally different place, and everything is different. But you can still find people who bring some positivity and joy to your life. And it's the joy in the really great moments that help you heal. And you have to find ways to bring joy into your life. I have been in some situations in my life where I felt extremely stuck and extremely lost because of feeling so stuck. And we've been in, I would just say, a form of a crisis the last few months. But because I had done so much work from moving past being in that struggle survivor mode to be more in the thriving mode, I've been trying to handle this current crisis as best I can, and know that my success rate for dealing with a wide range of different traumas is pretty high. I have a high success rate for getting through those tough times. And I'm strong enough, and I'm just being tested. You just see it as a test, that the world is throwing you some tests, and don't see it as a graded test. See it as a pass-fail. And if you get through it, you passed. So practicing gratitude is a huge part of it. You make a list of the things that you are grateful for, and see the way that you can bring more joy into your world. I started watching comedy videos here on YouTube. I started, at that time I had a DVR, DVRing like The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and, which is just a cute show and cute and funny, and I love the humor of the show, and whatever show that makes you happy. So that you can see it. What I would do is I would put it in first thing in the morning, and I would put that on while I was having breakfast. And so within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm laughing. I'm having fun. And next thing you know, those little endorphins would go off in my brain that help make you feel better and make you feel lighter. And they would go off, and suddenly I wasn't weighed down with the problems that I had when I had sat down 5 to 10 minutes earlier. And I had a more positive approach from that point to whatever the stressful, horrific thing I was going to have to deal with that day, or stressful, horrific person I was going to have to deal with that day. Now, that little thing is something I learned on my own. No one ever told, they'd say, bring more joy to your life, and they'd say, go for a bike ride, or take a vacation. Well, sometimes you can't afford a vacation, right? I'm there, I understand. Or sometimes physically can't go take a bike ride. But at least you can kind of take these, like a mental trip away from your problems, if only for 5 to 10 minutes, while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing something, a menial task, and have that help you mentally change your channel inside so that you're lifted up. And next thing you know, then if that becomes a morning routine, then you're always laughing in the morning. And many people see me and they think, oh, she must be on something. She must be, how can she be so positive? How can she get to this? And how she must have no problems? And how can she? And I'm like, no, that's not it. It's not that I don't have problems. I have learned to be able to cope with those problems in ways that I never thought I'd be able to do it. But because of time, which also helps heal, time, good support system, as well as being kind to myself. Stop blaming myself. Stop comparing to other people, because that's a very big problem, is the comparing. And start bringing the joy. And I guarantee that you'll start feeling better. And from there, who knows what you're able to do. Once you're not bogged down by the things that have traumatized you, or you're stuck, you're actually able to start making new friends, or change jobs, or work on changing jobs, or start saying, I can do this. I've just overcome this horrible thing. So making this new change where I'm stuck, I already have the confidence because I went through this other thing, and now I can do this other thing that I didn't think I'd be able to do, right? So anyway, I've got a whole lot of things here, a lot of good advice, and lots of things that I have been thinking about working on. And I hope you enjoy some of these videos. I hope it helps you. I think mental health is important, and having a dialogue for mental health is really, really important. And if you're going through crisis right now, know that you are special and you are worth your feelings. You are worthy of your feelings. I guess that's a better way to say it. You're worthy of your feelings, and you are worthy of happiness. And you can move past the trauma. So anyway, once again, don't forget to hit thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe. I hope you like these videos, and all my information, contact info, and all my social media and everything is down below. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Thanks so much. Bye.